This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, our weekend show is very exciting. It's all about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest business story of the week. Which actually, now that I say it, doesn't sound so exciting, does it? But it's the theatre, it's the drama, it's the melodrama of it all, because we also look for the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit. So you got to put on your kind of your Sherlock Holmes detective hat for that one. Do they even have detective hats these days? It feels like that's kind of like the old press hats, you know, with the little kind of...
We're off and running already. Go on.
Did you ever have a hat that said press in the side of
and
it?
then you ran into a telephone booth and closed and go, the man has just died. Stop. Next thing to happen, stop. No, never.
Oh, okay.
I was a computer-age journalist, to be honest.
Oh, sorry. Might be unfairly aging you a little bit there. Which is not deliberate at all. We also pick out our favourite story of the week, and every week we are joined by a judge, an esteemed judge, to pick a winner, and that judge is our Fear and Greed colleague, Adam Lang. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Michael, and good morning, Sean.
Morning, Adam. I want some seriously good judging this morning.
A lift in previous performance.
There's been a little off-air discussion between Michael and I. Not happy at all.
It's a sprightly start today.
Adam, may we ask, I know that every week you adjust the criteria basically just on the fly, but could you just give us the template? What are you looking for? We have our 4 categories, obviously, as we go through the biggest story, most remarkable, sleeper and favourite, and you are looking for individual things within those. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I've looked for some criteria that helps guide my decision-making every week, but it does vary a little, I suppose. Number 1 is topicality. We want it to be topical, of course, and we want it to be timely. That's number 2. Number 3, economic impact. Number 4, my subjective bias. Obviously, a bit of that comes in, and we love a bit of melodrama. I score on all 5.
Sean?
Yeah.
Would you like to go first for the biggest story of the week?
I will. Because there was only one big story this week. Massive week for the economy, data on retail sales, building approvals, business investment. But the big one was monthly inflation data. We found out that, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, inflation is no longer falling. We've been working with high interest rates for years now to get inflation down. No longer falling. Annual inflation for the 12 months to the end of April stepped up to 3.6%. Perhaps most concerning is that the trimmed mean measure, which takes out some of the volatile items, stuff like fruit and veggies, ticked up as well to 4.1%. The reading is monthly, not as comprehensive as a quarterly figure, but the trend is not the Reserve Bank's friend in this case. Inflation at best is flatlining. It might actually be rising. Headline inflation is entrenched around 3.5%, underlying around 4%, both well above the central bank's target range of 2 to 3%. But there was more this week. Inflation is still a problem, but retail sales have fallen to their lowest level in 2 years when measured on a per capita basis, highlighting how tough it is for households and also many businesses. A bunch of businesses have come out over the past couple of weeks saying things are tough, particularly in retail land. People are struggling with higher interest rates and the cost of living pressures. Building approval figures actually fell in April. The government wants to be building 240,000 homes a year. It's running at about 160,000 homes a year. No wonder there is a housing crisis. There was some good economic news. Spending in data centres and technology is growing, boosting the economy. Over the past year, business investment jumped by about 5.5%. Business investment since COVID's been up by about 7%. On average, it grows by about 1%. So that's the really good news. Then we had the Reserve Bank Chief Economist Sarah Hunter say that the Central Bank Board was absolutely focused on the fact that inflation is clearly still above the target band. Doesn't sound like a comment recommending interest rate relief anytime soon. Bond markets are now pricing in a 30% chance of a rate hike. Yes, a rate hike. Don't think it'll happen, but the economy was definitely the story of the week. Michael.
Oh, golly. It is very hard. It is very hard to beat the economy when you combine 6 or 7 different stories into one. So this week, for me, a little change of strategy. I'm not aiming to win here in the biggest story category.
Wow.
I'm looking instead for an honourable draw, a tie. That's all I want here.
Ooh.
That's all I'm looking for because I know, Adam, I know.
He's playing you, Adam. He's playing you. You know that. I played you last week where I said no one should win the top category and got away with it. He's playing you this week.
No, look, Adam, I understand the struggle. I know how hard it is for you. You've got a tough job to do here, so I'm just going to make it easy for you. You don't need, you just look at this as going, you know what? It's as good a story as Sean had. It doesn't need to be better. My story is certainly draw-worthy. It has been a heck of a week to be doing a business news podcast, as you would understand, because it's been a heck of a week for Australian companies on the world stage. These are two parts of one story, not like Sean does with 6 or 7 stories rolled into one. This is more like two halves of an orange.
Isn't it funny how Michael is so critical of being more than one story in one? Mine at least was related to the economy. And he jumps in and says, I got a couple of stories here that it's different to 6.
But no, just picture the piece of fruit, Sean. These are two halves of an orange, an apple, a pear, a grapefruit, whatever. They are part of a whole, two halves of a whole here. Part number one, half number one, BHP, crunch time this week, obviously, for the big Australian $75 billion bid for rival miner Anglo American under the UK's put up or shut up laws. It had until late Wednesday night to make a firm revised bid, and it couldn't. Instead, it asked for more time, which Anglo rejected. So now BHP retreats, having missed out on its goal for now of becoming the biggest copper miner in the world. Can't do anything else for 6 months. In the meantime, could we perhaps, maybe, see another big miner swoop in? Perhaps Rio Tinto will come calling. These are very, very exciting times. Now, remember with this, remember that this all happened late on Wednesday night.
Oh, God,
for a deal.
That makes it exciting.
No, think about this, though. No, for what I'm actually meaning here, Sean, is that for a deal that's worth $75 billion, the timing on this was all measured in mere hours. You would expect that there are months and years to kind of negotiate this. And this came down to actual hours, minutes, seconds in order to get this finalized. This was high stakes stuff. Like, in terms of being a deadline, we joke about there being, oh yeah, there was a put up or shut up deadline on this. It actually came down to the wire. I thought that...
Come on, you're over-egging it. I mean, I love the melodrama. But even for you, Michael, this is kind of up there.
I have never been accused of over-egging. Well, not today yet. Well, until just then. It matters locally, obviously, because BHP is our biggest company. A lot of shareholders, a lot of Australians are shareholders through their super or directly, et cetera, all this. I mean, obviously, just tick that box, Adam. We know the economic importance of this. So just that's done. Just it's guaranteed. Now,
so that's one half. That's one half. What's the other half?
Compare and contrast that with the other half of the apple or the orange or whatever it was, the grapefruit. Lend-Lease, former blue chip company this week, dumping its aggressive overseas expansion, writing down nearly $1.5 billion in investments in its construction and development operations. Instead, it's going to focus on Australia. This is a major, major change in strategy, an about-face that proves the point, Sean, that you made this week, that it's very hard for many Australian businesses to take their business models offshore. And Lend-Lease this week was just a very public example of that. If you put the two together, combine them into that one whole piece of fruit again, BHP abandoning its Anglo pursuit, Lend-Lease dumping its overseas expansion, it's been a huge week for giving up, really. Accepting when you have been beaten, which is something I will never do, but I will accept a draw.
Brilliant.
Okay, so look, there's a common theme in both stories. Australian businesses amongst the world. Michael, yours international. So Lend-Lease has to sell out and BHP and Anglo American is off. So neither of them are great stories. I think they're big, but just nowhere near the impact that this inflation data is going to have on the Australian economy. So I'm sorry. I can't give you the draw on this one, Michael.
How about the win then?
So, and Adam, I don't want you giving him 22 points and I get 23 points, right? There is such a gap in this story. And Michael Cheat Thompson, did that come out then? I'll get into that in a moment. Like, don't be nice to Michael, and I'll explain why you can't be nice to Michael later in the show.
One of the aspects of this weekend edition that I come to really enjoy and find myself unrestrained laughing is your heckling of Michael. Now, I probably shouldn't. I'm not showing my independence when I involuntarily laugh.
Oh, he's won the last 2 weeks, though. So he's like,
It's true.
It's not,
Michael
you're not
has
working against
prevailed.
him. Yeah.
I'm a resilient fellow. It does feel like there's a little bit of bias against me, though. I'll just going to just put that out there.
Acknowledged.
It's actually a very good. I'm not going to declare it rigged, but it is a very good.
Not yet.
It's a very good segue into the most remarkable story.
It is. It is a very good segue into the most remarkable story. Michael, can you please go first?
Oh, I will, because there is only one story that is worthy of the title of most remarkable this week. For the first time in history, a former US president has been convicted of a crime. Now, if that is not remarkable, I don't know what is. Donald Trump found guilty this week of 34 counts of falsifying business records over hush money payments to a porn star. A jury of 12 New Yorkers, fine, upstanding citizens of New York, found themselves having to sit in court and sit in judgment of the former president. He's now going to be sentenced in July. There's the potential here for a whole range of penalties, probation, kind of a whole bunch of different restrictions and things. But yes, jail is a real possibility. If he is jailed, he can still run as the Republican candidate in the election in November. It's never happened before, but that's because all of this is unprecedented. No one really knows kind of how this is going to work. Now, from here, those watching the trial were tipping that he would be found guilty. In fact, even Trump himself expected to be found guilty. Every day he would comment outside the courtroom. And the day before the verdict was delivered, he declared, and I quote, "Mother Teresa could not beat these charges. The charges are rigged. The whole thing is rigged." And I love the fact that he was, in fact, comparing himself there
to Mother Teresa.
Yes,
that's right.
Incredible.
He was still sticking to that script after the verdict when he said, and again, another quote, "This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who is corrupt." So he didn't miss there, did he? The real verdict is going to be November 5 by the people. I am a very innocent man. Not just an innocent man. I am a very innocent man.
So what was it? He said November 5 by the people. He sounds very much like you, or perhaps you sound very much like him. A man of the people. Well, very similar, you two.
So you are, in fact, then, by extension, comparing me to Mother Teresa then as well. This is going to a very strange place here,
Hard
Sean.
to tell you apart, obviously.
It's the outfit you got on.
There's one part of this that I just found particularly kind of amusing. There was one reporter in court who said that as the verdicts were read, Trump stared straight ahead as each one was read. And then he looked hard at each juror in turn. Can you imagine
the Wild West?
Being one of those jurors? It's like, oh my God, it's my turn next. Oh my God, he's staring straight at me.
The dirty dozen.
Yeah.
And just the death stare that he would be giving. Like, it would just be the most uncomfortable kind of 1 or 2 seconds of your life, kind of being on the receiving end of that stare from Trump. The big question is, where to now? Many Republicans don't seem too fazed, saying that they are focused on the polls, not on the verdict. You can expect that Donald Trump will be using this essentially to portray himself as a victim of the system. And there's an expectation that it will actually be able to raise a fair bit of money as well for the campaign. It is worth noting the tweets that went out from the Trump campaign saying, "Is this the end of America?" And there's a big picture of Donald Trump. And it says across the top of the picture of Donald Trump, it said, "I am a political prisoner," in all caps. It does feel as though they might have had these ready to go, don't you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
In the couple of hours after the decision, Trump was still the hot favourite to win in betting markets. So what do you make of that? We are in uncharted territory now. Who knows? Who knows the economic impact? The business impact. It is going to be significant. It is going to be profound. There are more legal matters still to come, other battles in other courts in other states. This is all just remarkable.
Yeah. So, Adam, before I get into my most remarkable story, which is which is going to struggle. But,
I was going to ask how Michael got to choose this one.
well, this is the story.
Okay.
There I am, snoozing in bed. You know, I was sort of half awake, half asleep. I thought, oh, I should get up and go for a run. I get a phone call. Michael Thompson.
This is a little early for
Oh,
you, Michael.
Good morning, Michael. I've got Trump's story for most remarkable. I'm like, what? You've just woken me up. Like
He's bagged it.
There's no preamble. There was no nice sleep. How's Jackie? No, none of that.
Yeah. But to be fair, Sean, in my defense,
In your defense, you're up earlier than me, yes?
yes. And I tried texting you to say, I'm doing Trump. And you just don't respond. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to make sure that he hears it. Because otherwise we're both going to turn up. We're both going to be doing Trump. It's going to get messy. So I thought I'll just call you.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at hold on. You can see, I've got my phone, right? Would you do a 30-sec video on inflation for socials? Don't forget get the kook on Monday morning, something to Stephen Koukoulas. That's it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing about Trump.
It feels like you're trying to muddy the waters here. This feels like, sure, in the end, you know what? I got in first.
Well, I wasn't awake, was I?
No, you weren't. You weren't. And really, I mean, just taking a really objective view of this, I did a great job with it.
No, you did. No, totally. Economic impact. Remember that, Adam. The Australian superannuation industry is closing in on hitting $4 trillion. Big inflows, strong returns, pushing the sector to record levels. That is truly remarkable. Ever since 1987, compulsory superannuation, this is the payback. This week, this is the payback. New figures from the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority show that an 11% return in the 12 months to the end of March pushed the pool of super money to $3.85 billion. We've got the superannuation surcharge increasing from 11 to 11.5% at the beginning of next month. That should push it beyond $3 trillion, though if investment markets go south, maybe not. For the 12 months to the end of March, the ASX 200 was up around 10%. That helped. International equities were higher. Bond markets rallied. For the year, contributions totaled $177 billion. That's money being put aside by employers and members for the future. There's also a big jump in benefits paid last year, about $113 billion. So much in this. I just want to give you 4 quick points why this is far more remarkable than anything that happened on the other side of the world. The fact that we have 700,000 baby boomers retiring over the next 5 years and drawing down their savings is a massive challenge for the super sector. It's $4 trillion, but a lot of that money is going to come out. I mean, more will go in, but it's still a challenge how they manage that. There are now 7 super funds with more than $100 billion under management. Is that good or bad? I mean, think about Sydney Airport. Super funds are too big. They're buying assets like Sydney Airport, and so a bunch of other investors don't get access to that. Third thing, can governments keep their hands off the pot of money? Not a chance. I mean, the Albanese government wants super to help out with affordable housing, for example. Will people be happy to continually contribute to super when there's already so much money in there? And then that's not something we've thought much about. Certainly we didn't think about it when it was designed, and we want people to retire with money. But 11.5 next year goes to 12% of my money goes into super. Do I want that? Maybe not. Massive story and quite remarkable that the sector has hit that or almost hit that $4 trillion mark. Did my best. Over to you, Adam.
Almost hit that, yes.
Okay. I really love Sean's story. I love them both, actually. Is super too full? You know, that's a really good question, Sean. I love that. And the numbers are remarkable. There is a however.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I'm not going to be too upset.
I apologise almost in advance of what I'm about to say, but I have to give this to Michael. Yeah. There's just so much remarkable about this.
Yeah.
Donald Trump turning a conviction into a political asset. Just quite remarkable.
So it is 1-1. Oh, this is fun. This is exciting. This feels like a real contest, a battle.
I'm not sensing that from Sean.
No, because I've got to say, well, let's go to the break.
Yeah. You know what's coming, don't you, Sean?
I do. Yeah.
You know what is coming. This is going to be good. We'll take a quick break and come back and find a sleeper story. All right, we are looking for a sleeper story of the week. Sleeper is, of course, a story that's not getting the attention that we feel it deserves, and maybe one that's flying under the radar a wee bit. I'm going to go first on this, if that's okay.
Cheat?
Sean?
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, sorry. There's a little story on this one too, Adam, but I'll just tell you after Michael's spoken.
Oh,
Okay.
you are just
Yep.
like, you know what? This
Yep,
week
twice this week.
I just got in first. I picked the best stories. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize.
This isn't the best story. The last category, you got the best story because you cheated. This one, you tried to get the best story because you cheated, but unfortunately you didn't win. But go on.
Adam,
Yes.
this was your week this week.
Oh, okay.
If you were paying attention, Adam, this week to a very quiet little story bubbling away, which I'm sure you were because I suspect you've got Google alerts set up for when this is mentioned. This week, tax reform here in this country. I don't know why I'm slapping my thigh when I say that.
Michael, are you attempting to manufacture excitement over reform?
No, it is genuine. It is coming from a very genuine place, my diaphragm. Industry Minister Ed Husic this week called for a lower corporate tax rate, Adam, either by cutting it or by using other incentives like an investment allowance. He said, let's pay attention to what Ed Husic said here. He said the businesses need to be able to invest and free up capital, and a lower tax rate, lower than the current 30% rate, could do that. This is big. This is really big. Because Labor has generally fought against lower taxes for companies. And yes, Treasurer Jim Chalmers was sticking to that official line, saying the government's already doing enough to encourage investments.
Hold on. Did you say Jim Chalmers just whacked Ed Husic saying, no, we're not going to do it?
Just wait, Sean. He cited examples like the production tax credits for critical minerals refining and hydrogen production, which are all in the May budget. But, Adam, isn't it fascinating?
Oh, God.
Isn't it fascinating that here we have a senior government minister, because industry minister, yes, not as senior as some, obviously, but still senior compared to just a backbencher, a senior government minister saying, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this. Maybe there's a way that gives all companies a better shot at growing, a better shot at flourishing, at thriving, at creating more jobs, more prosperity for the nation. It feels to me, Adam, like we might have seen a seed sown this week, a tax reform seed. And with a little bit of water, a bit of fertilizer, and with some time, it may still bloom. What a sleeper story. This truly is the people's sleeper story.
Corporate tax reform is the people's sleeper story.
Sure is, buddy.
Oh, magnificent. Magnificent. My story is actually about something that happened. So this extraordinary hype around electric vehicles over the last couple of years would have made you think the entire world was about to go electric. It's not. This week, the old guard of the automobile industry stood together and said, we're not done yet. The bosses of Toyota, Mazda and Subaru pledged to continue investing in fuel-based technology. Toyota unveiled plans for a new generation of internal combustion engines, betting on a continued need for the older technologies, particularly for the presence of the engine alongside the battery in a hybrid vehicle. The world is hybrid. It's not EV. This is a sleeper story because it's really the first time that the vehicle makers have come out and said, hold on, we're not going electric yet. There wasn't a lot about it, but the fact that these three companies stood there together, Toyota, Mazda, Subaru, the CEOs of them, and said, it's not all about EVs, it's actually more about hybrids, and there's plenty of life left in those internal combustion engines. In countries like Australia, where we just don't have the infrastructure yet to facilitate a mass transition to EVs, this is actually game-changing. It really is. I reckon, in the next 10 years or so, we will become a hybrid country, definitely not an EV country. And that really shifted this week with those three car makers getting together and talking about it. No one's talking about that. It is a true sleeper story. Adam?
Yeah, so look, this one, Ed Husic, I was a bit surprised he'd said it, but really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Because I hope there is a lot more in this conversation.
Yeah.
I hope it is a sleeper. No, though. Sean has to win for the sleeper story. In terms of economic impact, it more than made up for Michael Watch. You bring in melodrama. Wonderful, wonderful melodrama. But the substance of this is so important. We're just not prepared to switch straight to electric. And it's a long way off. But we need to build that. We literally need to build it. You remember that interview, Sean, you did with Trent Nicollick as he was driving around Australia in the EV?
Yeah.
And he sort of laid out a lot of those infrastructural issues. And so it's just not a practical alternative yet. And we haven't yet built that pathway. So I think this is absolutely the sleeper story of the week for me.
So you hate tax reform, do you, Adam? Noted. Adam, champion of the status quo. Big fan of keeping things as they are. All right. Sean, favourite story.
Oh, Michael, don't stop me now.
Oh, this is sickening. You disgust me. Just do it.
Gonna have a good time. My favourite story, as it turns out, is the one about Sony Music being the front runner to buy the music catalogue of British rock band Queen. Now, two of the three of us here think Queen truly are some of the most remarkable musicians, definitely, but some of the most remarkable music over the last 40 or 50 years have come from this band. Two of the three of us, Michael. Adam's one.
Yes.
And I'm the other.
Well, the third person just thinks they're a bunch of sellouts. To be fair, if I was being offered $1.5 billion for the recordings of Fear and Greed, I would be willing to talk.
Yeah. It'd get me to the table.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'd have a time issue like BHP had.
No put up or shut up deal here.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so the catalogue's expected to fetch $1 billion US, about 1.5 billion Aussie dollars. Great example of another asset class that's come to the market. We've seen it a bit. We've had Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, more recently Kiss, selling their catalogues. Queen is one of the most commercially successful groups in music history, having sold more than 300 million records globally. It is just a great story, but it's kind of broader than just Queen being successful. It is about different asset classes that are coming to the market because we're all used to equities and bonds and property and stuff like that. Over the post-COVID, really, there's been this surge in private credit markets, for example. Litigation funding's another one. This whole ownership of music is another one. There are funds that, it's a bit hard to stump up $1.5 billion for music, for Queen's catalogue, but you can become part of a fund that puts money towards these types of things. And so, great story because it's Queen, but even better story because it just demonstrates the different asset classes that are now available to investors. I think I just made that story more boring than it should have been when I brought the asset class stuff into it.
You successfully sapped the excitement from it. Yes.
Yeah.
It spoke to me, Sean.
Excellent. That's all I care about.
Yes.
Okay, Michael.
But 0 points for melodrama there, I suspect, unfortunately, Sean, and considering those points really matter. Look, I'm going to apologise in advance for my story, not for the content, but for the fact that I'm likely to get a little worked up around this one. It is possible that I'm a little emotionally invested in this story because I'm going to take us from a $1.5 billion deal to something a lot more humble, something that a lot more of us can relate to. And Adam, it starts with a question for you.
Oh, okay.
What did you have this morning for breakfast?
A banana.
Indeed. Anything else? Anything liquid?
A short black coffee.
Black coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I also have my apple cider vinegar in water. That's the first thing I have. Yeah, it's not very nice.
This is taking a turn for the worse.
An alarming insight into Adam there.
I've had a coffee and that's it so far.
See, this is the problem. What I've been worrying about, what I've been thinking about at 2:00 in the morning when I wake up has already happened. Orange juice, tragically, is already out of reach for the common man.
Oh, God.
Orange juice futures. Just sit down, gentlemen, and just enjoy this.
You're the one sitting looking at you, waving your arms around like an idiot.
We are going on a ride here. Orange juice futures have skyrocketed.
No.
They are double the price of a year ago just listen to this. Brazil.
We have no choice.
The legendary orange groves of Brazil, which were, in fact, the origin of the rumored city of El Dorado in South America, the city of gold. They did not refer to the precious metal. They referred to the oranges that grew there in their millions. Well, those orange groves have been under attack by weather, by disease, and suddenly, this delicious nectar, the juice of the mighty navel or Valencia, is in short supply. It is so dire that manufacturers are even considering replacing oranges with mandarins, which are tasty but vastly, vastly inferior. So, I'm going to leave you with this. Well, I'll leave you soon. I'm not going just yet. Remember in the 90s, cast your mind back to those timeless Kellogg's commercials featuring Australia's other man of the people, Andrew Gaze.
Genius.
He was with a bunch of kids, telling them that if they didn't start their day with a complete breakfast, it's like playing basketball with a deflated ball. And a complete breakfast, as he spelt out in this commercial, a very famous commercial, was cereal, milk, toast, fruit, and juice. You remember, that line stays with you for life. Cereal, milk, toast, fruit, and juice. And that juice that Andrew Gaze was talking about, it wasn't apple juice. It wasn't pears or kumquats or tomatoes. Certainly wasn't mandarin. It was orange juice. Affordable, quality orange juice is the right of every single Australian. And this week, that dream, the great Australian dream, has been shattered. This is my favourite story.
Brilliant. Yes.
Seriously, the melodrama today has been next level.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Sorry, I just need a moment.
You're sweating.
Oh, I actually am.
Yes.
To take my pants off.
God.
Which is actually quite a long way into the show before you've done it this week.
Indeed. Managed to hold off. Adam, over to you.
Okay. Look, that melodrama was, I think, your finest, Michael.
Yeah, I think that might be right.
I know we've got a very strong bank of performances over the 4 years to consider when it comes to melodrama, but that, I think, is a new level. Well played.
Oh, well, thank you.
Look, for several reasons, Sean wins. And it's not just personal, my subjective bias toward music. I think the fact that Queen Freddie Mercury died over 30 years ago, and that yet the value of their musical genius, I'm obviously a fan, is still so high, I think is just wonderful. So that's my favourite story for the week. Well done, Sean.
I really stood no hope of convincing someone who drinks apple cider vinegar as their breakfast drink of drink of choice.
It's one of those things you really should have worked that out before you went ahead with that story.
Yeah. There's a red flag as soon as I asked him, what did you have for breakfast? Apple cider vinegar mixed in with a bit of hot water. Oh, dear Lord.
However, so obviously I won 3-1, but I would like just an asterisk on today's result.
Yes.
Like a special commendation for melodrama from Michael, because the Donald Trump story, the orange juice story,
it was really something.
Even the tax reform story where absolutely nothing happened, he still told it so well.
Yeah.
So, can we have a special commendation for Michael? I mean, I know it sounds condescending. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
You know what? I'm happy with condescending. That is, I'm quite honoured. I'm touched.
Maybe we should have like a cape, a theatrical cape and cane that you can win. The Fear and Greed Cape and Cane.
Yeah, the Man of the People Award.
Yeah.
And maybe a top hat.
Or to bring us back to where we started, instead of a top hat, a little hat with press stuck in the side, like Sean used to wear in his early days as a reporter.
I love it.
That's right.
All right. So what was it? So it was 3-1. What was the points score?
The point score 92 Sean, 89 Michael.
Oh, that's probably closer than I deserved.
That is, in the words of Donald Trump, a landslide.
Yes, well done. All right. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, Michael.
And thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael.
Make sure you're following the podcast and join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great weekend.